Welcome to Meet the Moment podcast produced by the Real Estate Business Institute. This podcast is an exploration of what today's industry leaders and agents need to know to be profitable, productive, and have fun. I'm Matthew Rathbun, and I'm joined by co-host Kimberly Allard as we chat with thought leaders, brokers, and agents who can help agents meet the moment of change in the real estate industry. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Meet the Moment podcast. My name is Matthew Rathbun, and I am half of the brain here at our Meet the Moment podcast. The other part here, your friend and mine, is Kimberly Allard. Kimberly, how you doing?
I'm well. Good to hear your voice. I can see you. Our listeners can't, but I can see you. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Yeah, blue jean t-shirt, just a work day today. Have you ever had those where it's just literally I'm just working today. I have no intention of talking to people or being around them.
Yeah, that's when it's 3:15 and the UPS guy comes to the door and you realize you're still in your pajamas drinking cold coffee from 8 a.m. Yes, we're real estate agents. This happens to all of us.
Yeah, and honestly, it's funny that because the days where I don't, get dressed to impress, so to speak, or go out to meetings, or whatever, are by far my most profitable days. Is when I get most of the work done that's actually going to make me some money.
Yep. You have to have desk days, right? You have to have a desk day. You have to have the out in the public days. But I love, but of course, those are the days that also I show up on the podcast munching on peanut butter crackers because I haven't left the desk all day. It's shocking.
I have my beef jerky here. So
we're going to talk about fitness and food. Follow us for more tips.
Did I tell you I have a physical trainer now? I have a guy that I hired. His name's Umar. He's awesome. I may have mentioned this in a previous podcast. I hate him, but he's awesome. He doesn't. Pro tip to our listeners: if you're 50 and you're gonna hire a personal trainer, make sure they're also 50 so they understand the things that a 20-something can't.
Yeah. No, that is a very good investment. Good for you. It's an investment in yourself, right?
Yeah. If I don't wind up incarcerated for killing somebody at the gym, sure, it would be great. The equipment's just way more complex. I feel like I'm super old when I talk about this, but I just used to go to the gym, lift some weights, get on the treadmill, and now I've got to know what buttons to push, and it's harder now.
Yeah, some of those machines. When I did join a gym, right? I still pay for one. Don't misunderstand. I still pay. I just still don't go. But when I did go, you'd have to stroll by some of those machines because it was embarrassing to try to figure out, how do I sit on this? Am I frontwards, backwards, upside down? There are actually some pretty funny videos of people who don't know what they're doing at the gym, but no, I'm not going. Good for you. Do you feel better?
I do actually. I do feel better. I feel like I'm doing something to buy me a few more years of life to enjoy the grandkids and my wife and things. So yeah, that's it. Okay. So we're going to be talking here in a minute about some reports and kind of the future of the world, so to speak, for our real estate industry. Have you ever experienced deja vu?
Vujade, that feeling I've never been here before.
Or that I'm back again and didn't know I was here.
Right. Yeah, I think so. Not often, though. Not often. Why? Where are you going with this? I'm a little afraid.
It's not really that to be afraid. I have no point of this other than to say that I was on travel teaching, as we do. Again, it's conference season, and we've been super, super busy. So we haven't had a chance to really talk about much of anything. And I was sitting in between, I did the keynote, and then I had some breakouts. And I went out to the lobby to sit, and I had never been to the association. And I don't mind saying it was the Baldwin Realtors Association in Alabama. Beautiful people, beautiful building. It was a great day. But I was sitting there in the foyer, and I was just answering an email. And I looked up, and I mean, my head got a little swimmy, a little dizzy. And it's almost like I could predict the next words coming out of the conversation that I was totally not overhearing and eavesdropping on. But there was somebody I hadn't talked to in years who had just popped up and texted me that morning. It was uncanny. I've never been one of those kind of mystical, ooey people, but I kind of felt like I was there. And then that made me think oh my gosh, maybe I'm a fortune teller. And years ago I had a dream of where I would be, 5 years later.
Or maybe you were drinking? Had you started drinking yet?
Had not started yet.
Oh,
and I did have a couple drinks the night before.
yeah,
Sadly,
maybe that's what's causing the woo-woo.
I was working on stuff. You have to have some creative stuff. So I went down to the bar and had a couple drinks at the hotel, and then went back up and finished my work.
As you've mentioned, it is travel season. I was, fortunate enough to spend my 60th birthday, with the good folks in oh boy, I'm gonna say the good folks. I think this is where I was at. I think I was in Michigan. The Michigan Realtors, they were fabulous, but and not only are they fabulous, but it's a nice thing to kind of sit amongst your people and work on a project. And if it's obviously at dinner time, have a nice drink and appreciate the food or wherever you're at. That's one of the things oddly I enjoy about traveling for speaking and conferences and things like that is that experience. It's just somehow peaceful for me. However, I have not had deja vu during it, but so when we talk about deja vu or predicting things, right? Can we talk about what kind of predictions have we had in our industry and who does those things?
Well, well, Kimberly, not that we have just queued that up, but I think Stefan Swanepoel does a really good job of predicting things
Right.
and using data to get there. Just like I use data to find out if deja vu is really a thing, I used AI, and I was more lost than when I got started. But we are going to be talking about both the danger report and the opportunity reports, and we're going to leave links down there in the show notes where you can go grab both.
So many of our listeners have likely heard of the danger report. It's been 10 years now, right? 10 years, I
Yep.
think, some
Yeah.
plus or minus. And I don't want to call myself an idiot, but let's just say we were all doing some eye rolling back then, right? We, as an industry, sometimes we are just fabulous at only looking at what's in front of us, not learning from what's behind us, and certainly not believing what could come down the road. If you had told me 10 years ago, even though I'm sure you probably did tell us all 10 years ago, that systems would be so sophisticated they'd be able to tell whether photos had hardwood floors and things of that nature. None of us were, or a lot of us weren't panicked over that stuff. And yet here we are, maybe not really panicked and yet somewhat not believing. So I think today's episode, we're going to look back on the danger report, some of the things they said, and then here we are 10 years later and were they right?
You're very self-deprecating because you're one of the smartest people I know. So when you talk about like, did we? 'Cause I think there's a healthy. Maybe I just need to know more people. I don't know, but there's a healthy, healthy response when you hear somebody saying, "Here's something that's going to change in the future." To go, okay, but is it? Because you don't want to overreact in that direction and have it not happen. I mean, how many times has somebody said, "I'm definitely writing you an offer and I'll send it over to you tomorrow," and that person is now, I don't know, bagging groceries at Target, and you still have, oh, probably Walmart, and still haven't gotten that offer from 10 years ago. So there's a healthy suspicion that comes with predicting the future. So I wouldn't be too hard on yourself. The danger report, I did teach on it. I think you probably taught on it. And there was a lot of predictions in there. And it was targeted towards for what agents should consider, brokers should consider, and what MLSs and associations should consider. And I feel like we didn't heed the predictions well enough because a lot of the stuff that he said came true.
Yeah, it was cautionary. I think that's a good word. It was certainly analytical, and that might have been too much for some of us who, had our nose to the grindstone, if you will. And forward thinking, some people got somewhat defensive, but let's take a kind of a closer look and see what we missed, right? Or what we got
Yeah,
right. Now,
yeah,
first
and
of all, is
look,
Stefan Swanepoel not one of the smartest guys you've ever met?
uh, Stefan Swampole is. I mean, he's. I don't know him personally. I've only seen him on stage, and I've certainly read his content. He and his team's content. And the Danger Report was actually commissioned by NAR. Now, there's a response that we're going to talk about in a minute called the Opportunity Report that was published this year that he took upon himself. He and his team took upon himself, as I understand it, to write kind of an update about where we've been since the Danger Report and where we may be in the next 10 years. And I think there is a cautionary tale we do have to talk about as we start to jump into some of these ideas. And I was just on Facebook the other day, and in our last episode we talk about not you know blowing up Facebook with your political opinions or whatever. And this wasn't political, but it was definitely a rampage I was on about MLS. And I am very disappointed that my MLS system, and I'm a member of many of them. When I say mine, I'm a member of, I think, six now or seven for our company to function. We have to be a member of them. That it's largely not very different than it was the day I joined, other than I don't have to listen to the AOL dial up message anymore and I can put more than four photos in there. But for the most part, it's largely been the same thing, a database that goes out to a couple places. And in the late 90s, a guy named Saul Klein, who is also a very, very intelligent guy and a futurist, really tried to get NAR on board with a something like an aggregator, so to speak, and the brokers wouldn't have it. I think the brokers kind of revolted and said, "We don't want this." And I'm telling a very abbreviated version of the story. And I'm wondering how many things we're looking at now as we jump into this conversation that we're going to ignore in 10, 20 years from now. Go, oh, that's why we don't have the industry we thought we would. That's why we don't have the careers we thought we would now. So I think it's important to look at these things, both what happened in the past and what's happening in the future.
Okay. Well, let's dig in. So, if we might reflect back to our mindset back in 2014 and 15, we were probably coming out of when did the mortgage meltdown recession end? Around a few years before that, right? So,
Yeah,
we
well, I started feeling it in 2006. So about 2009, I feel like is when we started going, okay, there's some normalcy here. The normal market's coming.
okay, so we were probably pretty, I don't want to say fat and happy, that's ugly, but um we might have been cautious, right? We were like, "Oh, we probably just lived through this disaster." We lived, I mean, I don't know about you, but I was like, I lived through 9/11, and I don't mean to minimize what people who had real tragedy experienced in these times, but from a real estate perspective, the market survived that horrible tragedy. And then we approached the mortgage meltdown. Again, these are real estate perspective, folks, not life events. I don't want to measure
Yeah.
one over the other,
E-
but
yeah. Economic impacts.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure. So, mortgage meltdown. So now we're coming out of that, and we were probably like, "Wow, okay, I'm still here." I don't want to paint a picture of what the mortgage meltdown looked like. If you didn't live through it, that's maybe another episode. But anyways, so we were probably cautionary, but we were looking at brighter days. And then the opportunity report comes out, and now what are we doing? We're certainly reflecting a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
I think if you look at the reports, I think that they stated that 87% of the predictions they made in 2015 have come to pass. And I feel like the ones that haven't come to pass is just a matter of time.
that's pretty darn accurate.
Yeah.
That's amazing. All right. What else do we have back then and now?
So, in the danger report, um, one of the premise was looking at disruptors, right? What's going to change how we do business? And there was, he predicted that, or his team, I'll say his team, predicted that there'll be a change in how we're compensated, that technology was going to be more demanding, that commission splits would go higher, brokers would be looking for new ways to get agents to stay. I think all those types of things came true for one reason or the next. Um, but I feel like very often we misuse and minimize the word disruption. So we've been around for over 100, almost 120 years in the organized industry. And last year, NAR reported that the highest percentage ever of consumers use real estate agents in their real estate transaction, right? It was like what, 94, 95%, I think, of transactions had a real estate agent. Um, and so all those disruptions that we are told are going to manifest almost never do. Now, in the danger report, they did. I think the
Yeah.
opportunity report, they probably will. But a lot of media, industry related media, they love to hype up this company's going to disrupt and this thing is. And then if you've been doing this as long as we have, and you've been doing this a lot longer than I have, if you've been doing it any length of time, you look back and go, man, those companies don't even exist. These quote unquote disruptors, they don't even exist. So we want to look at patterns here. So what was your big takeaway? Like, what was the big thing in the danger report you felt was going to be the biggest threat to us?
Well, I'm one of those people that, and this is going to sound awful, but I'm worried about getting hit by a bus walking out of my house. And that never happened until I became much closer to 60. So it's like the most bizarre thing. Like right now, the other day I was in the shower of all places. And, I turned quickly. I might have been doing some interpretive dance in the shower, right? And I turned, there's a visual for you folks. And I turned quickly and I said, "Oh, I could have slipped. I could have passed out. I could have hit my head." The EMTs would have found me in the shower, with no clothes on. And that's how the end of the story would have been written. And it would have been awful. And next thing you know, I'm not even through my shower yet. And I'm all worked up about how this is how I go out. And now I'm starting to think I need to wear a bathing suit in the shower in case it does happen, right? And somebody has to find me because I don't want them to find anything. But, anyways, I I was concerned about all of this, but not to the point. Poor Matthew. Poor Matthew. But if you could only see his face now.
I'm just saying we're gonna pad your showers now. We're gonna pad your showers, and we're taking all the music out of the bathroom so you can't do any interpretive dancing. But go ahead.
It's a real threat. I'm just saying it's a real threat. But 99.9% of our listeners, my mother, right, and your family, they're they're not going to be concerned about slipping and falling in the bathtub, but there's that one person that is. So when I read the danger report, I don't think that I didn't think any of this stuff was going to happen. I just probably, like any individual in a large industry, wondered how in the world do we prevent or prepare for what is going to happen. So I think technology and compensation had to have been some of the biggest things. Technology about things that, like I said, that we didn't think could be possible today are now already in our rearview mirror.
And my story is not necessarily as dramatic as your interpretive dance in the shower, but I do remember one time that I was climbing up on the roof to do something and had to use a big ladder. Sometimes you climb up on the front of the house and it's the regular ladder, but this is the big ladder, 3 feet up or 3 stories up. And I was walking out the door and realized I was wearing a T-shirt that had the Superman symbol in the front, and changed my T-shirt because I did not want the paramedics to show up, find my bloody, broken body on the floor wearing this Superman T-shirt, and be the butt of all their jokes in the future. So, it is the weird things that we do. We take very different approaches to our danger. But yeah, I mean, the danger report predicted that there would be commission reduction or erosion, I think is the word that they actually used. That for low professionalism would end up impacting low consumer trust, and that technology would probably be a disruptor. And I feel like some of that stuff could be said right now about the future. And the worst part is we were given a big warning with the NAR settlement, and I feel like not everybody's listening. The NAR settlement, a lot of people argue it should have never happened. We could have won. Every day that you and I go into these bizarre Facebook mastermind groups, of which I found neither a master nor a mind in them, they're
Master
full and riddled with
mindless.
antitrust violations. Yeah.
Yeah, mastermindless, as we call them. There is a reason why everybody was sued, and those mastermind so-called groups that have no idea who's in them or who's even running them could be members of the public or the DOJ for all we know. And yeah, that's part of the reason why we have such a big problem. But yes, yeah, you go into those groups. I'm
Yeah.
sorry I interrupted.
No, no, that's okay. So let me ask you this. So we both have read both the danger report and the opportunity report. And if not, if you go read them, they're, first of all, they're very, very easy to read. Second of all, if you're not much of a reader, you're listening now to parts of it, but not the whole of it. Go put in notebooklm.google and ask some questions to see what some opportunities are. This is what I like about the opportunity report, especially the way it was written. And my guess is someone from Stefan, if they are listening, Stefan Swampol's T360 group is going to reach out one day if they stop saying this. But I actually put the opportunity report in ChatGPT as part of my business planning GPT and say, hey, based on this 10-year projection by these super smart people, what should I be focusing on? What should I be doing differently in my business? And I love that T360's shifted from it being a danger and a threat to us to going, okay, if you act now, here are some opportunities you can capitalize on. This is the whole point of a SWOT analysis, right? To identify the strength and weaknesses of yourself and the world around you, to identify those. So what do you think from reviewing this? What do you think is probably the agent's best bet? Like, what's one thing that they should be focused on to take advantage of the opportunity in the future?
Oh boy, there's really so many. I mean, and it's essentially what I don't want to say all our classes are based on, but NAR has done a good job at helping prepare us for things. It's, this has just moved in a different direction. I think they said, and I'm going to try to pull some of this stuff together, that, there's a predicted, if not already happened, a drop in licensees. Now, what do we have? 1.5 million members and estimated maybe 3 million nationwide. Um, the idea that we maybe years ago used to wrap ourselves around the idea of having the biggest office with the most agents, and now saying, you know what, fewer agents and higher standards might be something that we should all be looking at as an opportunity. And the sad part is that's just common sense. Do what you do and do it well, and don't dilute yourself to the point that you don't do it well. So brokerages with a bunch of, I don't want to say deadwood because that's insulting, but people that don't have as higher standards in the industry would probably be a better way to put it. So, is this, as they say in the report, is this skill over scale?
Yeah, and it's really weird as a broker, and I know a lot of a lot of our listeners are brokers here. As a broker, it's very hard to look at what's going on because for most companies, especially at a certain size, you're no longer winning on the commission split, right? Your splits are so high to be competitive with the agents that affiliated services tend to be the biggest income earner, and so you need to have a lot of licenses on the wall, so to speak, to start filling your mortgage and your title and your insurance and all those kind of companies. But if there's fewer people with licenses on the wall, it becomes almost impossible to run a profitable brokerage where where that income's not coming from third parties, or if there's a regulatory change that no longer allows affiliated services. Although I read this morning, I may have shared it with you. I'm not sure if you had a chance to read it, that it looks like the current administration is getting rid of, and we saw this coming, right? They've certainly pulled back on funding and operations for CFPB. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is the one who limits a lot of the activities of real estate and police some of these affiliate services and RESPA guidelines and stuff. And it looks like there's some head nods towards absolutely getting rid of it. And so I don't, I'm sure somebody else has the law is still the law, somebody else to pick it up. But what happens if a different administration comes in that's not a deregulatory administration, it's a hyper regulatory administration, and they go, okay, no more affiliations. What do you do? Like, how do you keep that brokerage open? I think those are good things for brokerages to start considering in their next 10-year plan. Is should we continue to be dependent on affiliate services?
Mm,
Um,
good
can we stay in
point.
business that way? Yeah.
Good point. Some of the other things that I picked up, and I know we don't have, you know, hours and years to go through it's how many pages in that report, by the way? Of course, I'm just putting you on the spot right now. There's a lot. This isn't a quick newsletter, you brief. This is a really big document that you can pull a lot out of.
Yeah. There's
I
113
Yeah,
pages, by the way.
there you go. Thank you. One of the things they talk about is brokers defining and defending the value, right? So that's our opportunity. And we learned that firsthand with the settlement. Consumers will, and now I'm just, adding things here, but I have not had a problem with buyer representation.
Yeah.
And
Me either.
and there was, yeah, and you obviously haven't either. And I don't want to make it sound like that's because I'm just such a gift to buyers and my representation skills. It is because when you are more transparent in your discussions with them about how things work, consumers are smart and they want to make choices. And that transparency in many cases leads to trust. So we're defining and defending our value at the same time. Before, we probably weren't defining it and we weren't defending it. And as they said in the danger report, they were expecting a downward pressure on compensation. And now, after the settlement, I think, and I've heard from many people that practice buyer representation, that their fees have essentially remained stable, but in many cases increased. And you'd get to define increase by whatever increased is. And as we all know, there's no set fees, there's no standard fees. It's specific to each brokerage. But whatever it was, it's not less than. And because they are doing a better job defining their value, and potentially defending what they're doing, it's giving people some additional reasons to trust. And then they are choosing representation. So I think if there's a silver lining in all of this, and for many of us, for months, if not a good period of years, we could have only hoped we ended up in this good of a, again, defining and transparency and trust type of situation.
Yeah, and I'm hesitant to even say it, but there are. Um, I'm just going to say this, and everybody can listen on their own. I don't know that the surveys are done in such a way as to give me a great deal of hope of their accuracies. But there's been more than a few surveys from agents reporting, brokerages across the country reporting that they're actually more profitable per transaction side after the NAR settlement, not less. And a lot of that is that the buyer agent is now securing what compensation they believe they're worth early on, and not dependent on a listing agent to split the difference, for example, or depending on the listing agent to negotiate their fees. And so there is a couple reports that they're not from entities that I think are worth um, that I would 100% believe in, is probably the best way to put it, saying that may be the case, but it does make sense, right? And I think that probably in some pockets there may be an increase. And so the value proposition, this was a funny thing, and this comes up in the opportunity report. You're really clearly defining your value proposition outside of just having MLS access, as opposed to being a local market expert. We have taught that forever. This is something I know you and I beat this drum up for decades now. And I feel like agents, some got a wake up call, some of them still don't. It's not whether or not you are professional, it's about how you communicate that as a marketing and brand value, instead of just saying, um, I can help get buyers in your home. Well, screw that. A 16-year-old with Canva and Zillow can get a buyer in the home. It's, are you
Exactly.
positioning me? Yeah. Are you positioning me to get the most out of the most equity, and to negotiate for the strengths that I have as a seller or buyer? Not necessarily just that you have MLS access and can, find a client.
If we had only listened to ourselves, just look inward, right? I make decisions based upon relationships that I either have or will create. And, something as simple as, and I don't want to say it's simple because it's sometimes quite painful, but buying a car or making any type of investment. I used this example in the SRS class the other day. People will pay in most cases for service that they can define and find
Yeah.
valuable. And I was searching for, if you will, at one point, and I think it was solar, right? And I had interviewed or had a bunch of folks come in, and I don't want to disparage that industry, but my experience with at least the first two or three people that had come to my home, they had an iPad, they had a presentation, they couldn't talk anything past their slides.
Yeah.
They didn't ooze professionalism or knowledge, and I didn't have a high level of comfort. And they might have been less expensive, I don't even remember. And then the third person came in, and my situation was a little unique. I had an outbuilding, that, and not an outhouse, an outbuilding, and and just to be clear, and the outbuilding had a bigger or longer or more sensible roof line, or pitch and direction for solar. My
Yeah.
my home had some dormers on it, so it just didn't make it ideal. So I really wanted to use that outbuilding for the solar, but I also, between the two buildings, was a significant amount of ledge and a lot of asphalt and things like that. And the idea and the cost of digging up the asphalt and blasting through ledge to get of electrical conduit from that building to the house was just keeping me from doing this whole solar project. And the last guy I met with, who was nice, knowledgeable, and could talk more than 5 seconds on one topic, said to me, "Well, why in the world would you trench when you could just schedule Z it?" And I looked at him and I was like, "Well, what the heck is that?" And again, this making this story even longer, it's essentially means that you can put solar on one roof and schedule the credits to any other meter or account, really, from what I understood, anywhere. And the fact that this guy had the knowledge and took the time to solve my problem and all the other skills that he had, I don't even know if I remember what if price was an issue, but I had so much respect for the fact that he was a problem solver of the problem I had at the time and not
Yeah.
just somebody there to sell me something. So if we had only listened back then to what we're now learning is people will pay a brokerage fee to a professional who has created a relationship and proven themselves or demonstrated that they have the knowledge to solve the problem.
I talk about this all the time. Like my marketing approach, my brand approach is to solve problems they didn't know they had and to solve it in a meaningful way. We talk about this. I talk about this in listing appointments. I talk about this in SRS and in marketing classes. We put in my opinion, far too much content out on the internet for people to be safe. So posting where your gun safe is, where the alarm panel in your house is, the posting pictures of a little girl's room where her name is actually on the wall somewhere, or pictures of her hobbies are on the wall.
Mm.
Like that stuff should all be removed and taken. And so I talk to sellers about the being careful about what part of their home, not to scare them, but to let them know that we need to put some interior photos in, but not every square inch of your home will be online. And the reason is I'm trying to keep, you safe. I'm trying to minimize the scary stuff we put online. And people will pay. I mean, I'll pay for more premium service. We pay for services all the time, so we don't have commercial in our Apple Music or Spotify, or we pay for streaming services without ads over time. But I'm thinking about the mistakes I made going cheap. Years ago, about 3 years ago now, my daughter was 9 months pregnant, and she and her husband, who's in the Marine Corps, were stationed in Georgia, and then got orders to go to Camp Pendleton, and they're freaking out a little bit. It's just the two of them. They're a young couple. She's pregnant. It was the week of Christmas. Christmas morning, I woke up in a hotel room because I was following behind them in the U-Haul, and they were ahead of me in the truck. And so it was freezing. It was a solar vortex. It was the coldest winter we'd had in years through the southern part of the state. So we're driving from Georgia to California, and halfway through, we made it through. I want to say it was Texas we were in, and my daughter was like, "I'm just too tired to keep going. We need to get a hotel." I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm a Marriott guy. Let's see if there's a Marriott." We couldn't find one in the app. All we could find was a Super 8. We go to the Super 8. They go check in, and I ask them for like a nice room because I want to relax. And they're like, "Hey, we'll give you the best room we have." I get in the room. It is quite literally staged for a 1970s porn. I mean, it is the most disgusting. Mirrors on the walls, mirrors on the ceiling. There was a hot tub, jacuzzi tub next to the bed, not in a separate room, next to the bed with mirrors all wrapped around it. And I grabbed a sleeping bag out of the car and like wrapped up on it and didn't want to touch anything. And I'm like, yeah, sure. This was whatever it was. Yeah, sure. It's 3 times more to go to a Marriott, but a very different level of service, sense of security. And I just kept thinking about my, pregnant daughter having to sleep in a not so great hotel room. Um,
I'm guessing Super 8 is not one of our sponsors?
they
And never
won't be
will be.
anymore.
Not anymore.
I,
Thank you, Matthew.
you know, no, but if Marriott is looking to pick us up,
Right?
I got some notice from you. No, I have no problem calling them out because it literally it gave me the heebie-jeebies. It was not a very nice hotel. In this place, I actually sent pictures to my wife going, I can't believe I'm here. But
How did I
uh,
get here?
yeah, how did I get here? Right? Yeah. Anyways, so um But I mean, that's not just the only that. It's also about the professionalism. And I'm going to just stick with the hotel. There is a difference between, and you and I travel quite a bit, so you can walk in and immediately tell what kind of stay you're going to have. But the quality, it makes a difference. The quality of the staff, like, the facility could be amazing and beautiful, but it's about that special touch they do. Matter of fact, there's a book I just finished reading called Unreasonable Hospitality. Um, the author's name is Will, I think it's Godera. If you haven't read it, go read it. It's fantastic. But it really touches on this because one of the things in the opportunity report they talk about is professionalism as a differentiator. And this is not about the most polished website. This is about what are you doing extra. When the NAR settlement came out, NAR posted 179 things that listing agents do, and I don't remember, there was 100 and something, maybe 150 things that buyer agents do. And my question is, if we're all doing 179 things, what's the 180th thing? What's that extra thing? What's that one other thing that you're doing that other people don't do in this profession? And it's not just about wearing the right clothes and shaking a hand well. What are you doing to make them feel safe and comfortable with your services? Are you better educated? Do Kimberly, you were talking about the solar panel stuff. Do you know the right questions to ask if you have a listing with a solar panel on it? I think that's professionalism, and that is a new differentiator. And not everybody can sustain it. And we have a lot of veteran agents, I think, who have forgotten how to be professional because they've coasted on good sphere of influence and people use them all the time. And now they're getting some competition for someone who's a little more polished and provides a little different service.
You it brings us to something quite similar, is that brokers have been, in the long term, or their long game has been to just recruit, recruit, recruit. And I don't want to minimize the importance of that, as keeping your eye on that ball. But as they say now in this updated report, that culture is the new currency. And that if you have the right culture and you recognize that retention, and I'm going to make a comparison here pretty soon, retention may or may not be more important than recruiting. We think about our own clients, never mind our own brokerages, our own clients. Do we all want to go out and get new clients every year? Well, we'd love to have new clients, but we don't want to lose sight of the ones we've worked so hard for and built relationships and trust and respect with. Because
Yeah.
when you add a home sale to an existing client, you're building on that relationship. Hopefully, the relationship just gets better. I mean, nothing I love better than to speak to a client, an existing client, 5 years later, and pick up exactly where we left. We laugh about the same things. We joke about the same things. We talk about what we have in common. And that's really enjoyable and valuable. But when we lose a client and have to replace them and try to somehow rebuild the relationship or replace it with the new relationship, you don't pick up where you left off. And it's a lot harder. It's a lot more intense. It's a lot more effort. So when we look at our brokerages, are we creating a culture that allows us to retain the people we've recruited? Or are we bringing them in the front door and losing them out the back door? I mean, keeping the right, as they say again in the opportunity report, talking about keeping the right people longer.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I don't think that was an approach that many brokerages, some but not many, had. It was a numbers game, and it still is a numbers game, but again, talking about keeping the right people a little bit longer.
Yeah, in our brokerage, we don't. No one gets it 100% right all the time. Nobody gets exactly what they want. We all want to have, the exact right agents who last for. And you'll see this all the time when brokers are starting their own firm. You're like, what are you looking for? Well, I want hardworking, independent agents who aren't going to be dependent on a broker making lots of money. Well, okay, who doesn't? Right, good. But that's not the reality of it. And I have found some of the best talent from people who were waitresses or school teachers or newly single and just needed a job, and this was what they could do right now. And they become incredible people because they are good with clients and their heart's in the right place. And not to say that there aren't other groups who come from that area, but as a broker, my job is to coach, mentor, and train people up to have success as they define. Now, it is also my job to coach them to a better definition. And I just sent out an email to my company a couple weeks ago, And I've heard a couple of them talk, and they have this, this wondrous look at a couple of our handful of top producers who've just killed it in business, been doing it for 15 years, whatever. And they're all like, I want to do that. And I remember coming up through the ranks, brokers who would do, and even people who still teach when they do broker development, they still teach doing dream boards. Remember dream boards, a piece of poster board, and you cut things out of a magazine and you put up there. And I remember walking through an office one time, and there was a ton of these poster boards with sailboats on it. And I emailed my agents the other day and said, we don't do poster boards here. We don't do dream boards. If you want a Pinterest board, that's great. My goal isn't to help you find the sailboat. My goal, and if you buy a sailboat, I will go sailing with you. I will, celebrate that you bought this boat, but I will celebrate more if you bought that boat with no debt and happy personal relationships. If you get that boat and you can pay cash for it because you have been financially secure and you've built a great career, and you and your partner are out there enjoying a couple of drinks on the boat in the middle of the lake, that I'm going to celebrate with you a lot more than the fact that you just leased an expensive car or bought, yet the fifth big purchase on debt in the past week. So everybody has to have a different definition of this. And I feel like that some of the agents coming into, I don't feel, I know some of the agents I see coming into business now, they've been brought up watching influencers online and being told what to do with their money and all the rest. And they're good at building an audience, but they haven't quite figured out the people part of it yet. And professionalism is figuring out the people part and not just the boat. And I know you're a big boat person, and my guess is you have a few thoughts about buying that boat.
My father said to me, when I bought it, he said, "This, what did they say? Buying a boat is the best day of your life." And this, I guess I'm going to screw this up because I don't remember of it, but something about it being the best and the worst day all at once. Yeah, your point is well taken. Yeah, many agents live beyond their means, but the culture we create is really important. And looking at the business like a business is, it's, I think that just goes without saying. I wanted to talk a little bit about tech, right? Because we're talking
Okay.
about the brokerage business. Um, you know, as it's been said, AI isn't optional anymore, and I know you do a great job presenting on AI. And anybody who hasn't heard Matthew speak on the subject, please go to REBI and sign up for one of the classes, download one of the short videos, or even visit Matthew's website. He truly is a resource in that area and many others. But many of us that aren't as smart as Matthew when it comes to tech, eh, one of the numbers I think they said is that many agents that we have are using less than 40% of the tools that we give them. So basically, less tech, more adoption. Now, I am all about more tech. I am the one that a new shiny thing comes by, I buy it, I'll use it. If I don't like it, I put it on the shelf. If I do like it, I'll continue to use it. However, as brokers, we can't keep buying the shiny things hoping that somebody will use them. And as I again said in a recent class, I said, don't start buying things and trying to incorporate them into your business until you've exhausted all the free things we have. So I think this is kind of not necessarily profound, but it says it, you know, adoption of the tech is more important than buying and getting and having new tech that you're never going to use. So I personally am going to try to focus on that. I won't wait till next year to do it because I don't believe in just having calendar years of plans. I believe in, just starting right now. But I think it's important. Let's get to the basics and simplify what it is we're giving our agents to whatever extent we can, and then put as much effort into training them as we are into bringing the latest, flashiest.
Yeah, this is I was just teaching the broker session recently, and I want to say sorry for whoever's listening. I don't remember where I was teaching this, but I was teaching it virtually, so I don't remember where what area. But one of the things that I paused on is that everybody has a tech stack now. Every broker has a CRM and they have a website and they have all these flashy things. That isn't your unique value proposition as a broker anymore. It's, can you help me understand and use these tools in a meaningful way? Are you exemplifying as a broker? You should be doing videos. You should be using AI. You should be squaring away your calendar and doing all the things as a broker to show the agents what you're doing. And I think that's what builds culture, is that I trust you when you tell me to do something, that you're doing it and that you see it valuable to, because you've undertaken it. But yeah, as much as the tech is, and I get it, AI obviously is going to be a big thing, is a big thing. I'm not going to say it's in the future, it is now. For brokers, it's going to be about whether or not you're offering a way to tie the humanity and creativity I need to have to the tool. And I'm not worried about your tech stack. I'm worried about you showing me what's out there, because most of the stuff we need, Canva, ChatGPT, RPR, some NAR tools and resources, most of that can be utilized to build a very successful career without a whole lot of money being poured into it. CRMs are important, websites are important, but they're not as expensive as people think they are. But somebody needs to show me how to use it. And so I think for brokers, that's the new role leading into the future, is that you're going to migrate from being a manager who just reviews compliance of contracts to now the necessity is going to be a good mentor, broker, and coach to help people find success. Because otherwise, if you don't bring that value, all you're left with is a high commission split and a dependency on affiliates to run your business.
Very well said. And I think to wrap up, let's talk about mergers. Now,
Yeah.
before we go there, right? Before they saw what we didn't, and this is very timely given some recent news. This goes right back to the quality of who you have. Can If we're all going to be struggling with the potential, what do they say, 1 in 5 brokerages will merge, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to put my hands on those numbers because I'm now just making them up. But if
A lot.
that's where we're headed, right? 3% of brokerage closures were anticipated in 2024, and 1 in 5 firms will merge by 2026. That's 20%, right? I'm no
Mm-hmm.
math whiz, but that's a big number. And if you're concerned or enthusiastic or however you respond to that data, you need to obviously take matters into your own hands, which means if you don't want to merge or you don't want to be forced to merge as a result of certain things, then you have to be that company where your agent can't walk out the door and get the culture that you're providing anywhere else. I don't care if you have 5 people or 500, right?
Right.
You've got to create the culture. Otherwise, these numbers are staggering to me.
It is. And I like, but you know what? It's not. And we're not talking about just brokerage. A realtor association, MLSs will be doing the same thing. There's just too many in a world that is no longer hyper local. All these things were built off of, I need to have my local realtor association so I can drive there and do things. And now I don't really need that anymore. Um, uh, and competition is good. MLSs should be competing for providing better services for us to go with them, instead of I shouldn't have to, as a broker, be a member of 7
Yeah, that's
MLSs.
awful.
I shouldn't. It's just wasted money, because they're all doing the same thing right now. Put data in, it sends it out to the websites, the aggregators who do the heavy lifting. Um, so I think the same things applied to brokerages, is that for a long time, brokerages simply you'd be there because of the culture, or you'd be there because of the tools and resources. And we are still kind of in that weird position. But as we move forward, you're going to have to be able to tie together both, and not everybody can do that. And a lot of our brokers and leaders have been doing this for so long, that they've been managing for so long, that they haven't sold anything in 2 decades. And they are going to have a hard time in the wake of tremendous and not an unrelenting change over the next 10 years. They're not going to be able to coast through as managers anymore. Our agents need far more from us as brokers. And a lot of brokers just aren't going to do it. They're going to be of retirement age. We have a very large void of young leaders emerging. And so we have a bunch of people who are just ready to retire already. They're hitting 70s and 80s now, and they're kind of wanting to enjoy all the work they've done in their life, and do some other things. But we don't have a large group of people like we have historically coming up behind them to take over. And some of the brokers I'm seeing more and more lately, They're also very young in the business, so they don't come with a tremendous amount of background to start leading in something that they've only done 10, 20 transactions for, um, when they get there, and they haven't seen a lot. So, and I'll just say, as we kind of wrap up this section, one thing that I did not see in the opportunity reports, because it's focused on much higher level things, what we're seeing locally is this market shift that we're seeing, at least in Virginia, DC, and Maryland, where I'm at. Um, we're looking at going back and doing some short sales. We've got several of them coming up in our company. And my agents, if they did short sales, it's been so long they don't remember, but most of my agents have never seen even a normal market in our area. And I'm not talking about my firm, I'm talking about in my region. I'm the president elect for my association, so I get to see kind of a different level there. And I'm looking at the average age of an agent going, they weren't even licensed when the last time we had a series of short sales or foreclosures in the market. And that's what we're heading for. People made some very hasty decisions 3 or 4 years ago, and now they got to sell, and the market is not, keeping up with the equity they need to do so. So again, I'm just talking about skill sets here, and I don't know how many brokers of newer companies have actually successfully done short sales, for example, and they are complex and shouldn't be left to a rookie. So yeah, all that to say that as the world emerges, you're going to have both agents and leadership who are willing and interested in accepting change and adapting to it, and the right tools to support that change, whether it's AI, whether it's integration of, we talk about brokerages and MLS. What happens when some of these aggregators start buying one another out or buying other tools and resources that we use? Because that's frankly the best way to make money is to sell whatever you've. I mean, that's Silicon Valley, right? You create something cool. You don't plan on running it for 20 years. You plan on finding a buyer for it and cashing out early with a couple $1,000,000 in your pocket and go do something different. And I think a lot of the tech companies in our industry are doing that. And the last thing I'll talk about, and I honestly, I'll won't say anymore because it's been a long episode now already, um, is AI is creating these customizable, the power to have customizable tools and resources for your brokerage or for your system alone. So right now, everybody always asks, what's the perfect CRM? What's the perfect PowerPoint presentation for this? What's my perfect system? None of them are perfect. There's a couple of super good products out there. Follow Up Boss, I think, is fantastic. A couple other good ones out there. They're not perfect. We are on the cusp of SaaS, service as a software as a service, being significantly challenge our industry when you can simply speak into existence through AI something you want. Like if you go to Canva right now and you want to create a mortgage calculator for buyers to use, you can go to your free Canva account, go to the AI, plug in a prompt and know nothing about design, app builds, websites, and it's going to create a workable, awesome lead generating mortgage calculator you can put in your website with 2 clicks. We're going to see a whole bunch of our software companies that have been creating these services for a while and not really having to change. And I won't name them, but some of these back end broker operating systems have been this ugly interface for years and years with no competition. Well, now I can go to ChatGPT or Gemini or anything and start going, this is what I wanted to do, go create it. And we're a year or two out from that being a reality, that we can create our own custom service apps for transaction management and marketing and financial management, all the stuff. What do these other companies do? So be very careful what you're investing in right now, how long you're signing contracts is one thing I will say to any broker or agent who's getting into these software apps. 1 to 3 years is the max I would sign any contract, and leaning more on 1 or 2.
That's some great advice.
Yeah.
That is some great advice. Well, I have loved this discussion. I think we could probably have it over and over again. I would like to again recognize Stefan Swanepoel, the T360 group. If you have not been to their site, please do so. Go to NAR if you would like to reflect back on the danger report, or as they refer to it, as the definitive analysis of negative game changers emerging in real estate. There you go, if you want to know what danger stood for. But again, that was commissioned by the National Association of Realtors. Don't say they didn't warn us, right? And here we are. And then the opportunity report, again, by T360. So thank you to them for giving us information to help ourselves. Thank you to Matthew for another wonderful session. What do you have some tech and tools or fun online stuff you want to share with us before we sign off?
Yeah, well, thank you for leading this conversation and bringing it up. This was fun. I like talking about the future and the contrast to where we've been. That's cool. I am actually, as soon as we get done here, I am going to head over to Home Depot. I am picking up all the stuff to install a supercharger for my new Tesla in the garage, and I may not live through it. So I'm going to make sure I'm not wearing my Superman T-shirt, and that Kimberly may be doing this on her own next week. But
You know,
um,
you better get a rubber bath mat and from your shower and stand on that while you're doing it. Don't tell our listeners you're doing your own supercharger. That's got like a 50 amp circuit or something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a 60 amp
Oh,
breaker on it, and six. Yeah. Anyways, it'll be fine. Everything will be fine. It'll be okay. We'll be
if
good.
not,
It'll be
I'll
fine.
miss you and I'll do the remaining episodes by
You,
myself.
I'm going on record. You can have my Tesla because you need a backup.
I
So,
do need a backup.
yeah, you need
Matthew
a
got a
backup.
new Tesla. I drive a Tesla. Doesn't matter if you like them or not. They are fun cars.
Ah, so much fun. I still kept my pickup truck. That's my go-to. But anyway, so two stories. TO Stories is the app suggestion here. From time to time, you will find articles or graphic you created or straight from Canva, something you want to send out to a social media platform. And not always, not all the things that are out there are appropriate. If you want something to do down and dirty, quick and easy, with some nice templates on your phone, I think Two Stories is a very affordable and fun app to use to kind of help in the moment social media content creation and distribution. So that's my app for the day. How about you?
Well, I think I just gave everybody my favorite online tool tip for the day. It was really go to the Opportunity Report, the Danger Report, and T360's website. They have some for fee services. They have a lot of free downloads. So head over there as a agent or a broker and see what you can find that can help your clients do some business.
Yep, that's good. All right. Thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
The Meet the Moment podcast is a production of the Real Estate Business Institute, an affiliate of the National Association of Realtors. Special thanks to CEO Jenny Scheib and to Dan Shea, our editor and content producer. The views and ideas expressed in this podcast are not necessarily shared or endorsed by REBI. All recommendations made in this episode were merely provided as best practices. The practices of any realtor are subject to the Realtor Code of Ethics, the laws and licensing jurisdiction, broker policies, and competent legal advice. Visit www.rebinstitute.com for more information, resources, education, and upcoming events.